Today, history was made, and not in peace. In a strike that stunned the world, Iran launched a direct ballistic missile attack on Tel Aviv in broad daylight. This is not a proxy conflict, not cyber warfare, but a bold and unprecedented assault from one nation-state to another in the heart of the Middle East. At precisely 11:42 a.m., precision-guided missiles rained down on central Tel Aviv, bypassing Israeli defense systems and hitting key infrastructure. Sirens screamed across the city. Panic erupted. The skyline trembled. This moment marks a turning point. For decades, conflict between Iran and Israel simmered in the shadows. But today it erupted into open confrontation. The region and the world now face a chilling question. Has the Middle East crossed a line of no return? The confrontation between Iran and Israel did not begin today. This strike is the violent eruption of tensions that have been simmering for over 4 decades. Since the Islamic Revolution of 1979, Iran has refused to recognize Israel, labeling it an illegitimate occupying regime. In turn, Israel has viewed Iran as its most serious strategic threat, especially as Tehran's nuclear and regional ambitions have grown. Throughout the 1980s and 1990s, the conflict played out indirectly. Iran provided financial and military support to groups hostile to Israel, most notably Hezbollah in Lebanon and later Hamas in Gaza. These organizations, backed by Iranian weapons and funding, became Tehran's tools of influence along Israel's borders. By the 2000s, the shadow war intensified. While Iran expanded its reach across the region, through Syria, Iraq, and Yemen, Israel conducted covert operations aimed at sabotaging Iran's nuclear program. Iranian nuclear scientists were mysteriously assassinated. Secret facilities were bombed. Cyber weapons like Stuxnet crippled Iranian infrastructure. But these strikes were always deniable, never declared, never direct. Tensions reached new heights after the 2015 Iran nuclear deal, known as the JCPOA, was signed. It temporarily slowed Iran's uranium enrichment in exchange for sanctions relief. However, Israel fiercely opposed the agreement, warning it only delayed Tehran's pursuit of a bomb. In 2018, under President Trump, the U.S. withdrew from the deal. Sanctions snapped back into place. Iran responded by accelerating its enrichment efforts. In the years that followed, the region edged closer to confrontation. Israeli jets struck Iranian convoys in Syria. Iranian drones infiltrated Israeli airspace. Jerusalem accused Iran of using Syria as a launch pad, while Tehran condemned Israel's airstrikes as acts of war. The most visible flashpoints came in 2021 and 2023, when missile barrages were exchanged between Hezbollah, Hamas, and the Israeli Defense Forces. Though Iran denied direct involvement, its fingerprints were evident. Meanwhile, Iran's ballistic missile program advanced significantly. It developed precision-guided systems capable of reaching deep into Israeli territory. Warnings were issued. Red lines were drawn. But direct state-to-state conflict remained unthinkable. Until now. This strike on Tel Aviv is not the start of a war. It is the breaking of a long-established boundary. A move that signals not just escalation, but a profound shift in the nature of warfare in the Middle East. It happened at exactly 11:42 a.m. local time, under the blinding daylight of a busy Tuesday in Tel Aviv. For many, the day began like any other. Traffic along the Ayalon Highway, families in cafes, students in classrooms. Within seconds, that normality was shattered. Multiple precision-guided ballistic missiles, identified by defense analysts as variants of Iran's Fateh 110 and Zulfiqar missiles, were launched from deep within Iranian territory. These were not crude projectiles. They were medium-range, highly accurate systems, capable of striking with a margin of error of just a few meters. Equipped with advanced guidance systems and believed to carry conventional high-explosive warheads, they flew over 1,000 kilometers to reach the heart of Israel's most densely populated city. While Israel's Iron Dome system was activated, the sheer speed and low-altitude trajectory of the missiles overwhelmed parts of the defense grid. Several missiles were intercepted in the skies over central Israel, but at least 3 made impact in Tel Aviv, triggering fireballs, shockwaves, and mass panic. One missile struck near Hakiria, the military command hub in central Tel Aviv, damaging a high-rise building and injuring several occupants. Another slammed into an area near the Habima Theater, shattering glass and igniting parked vehicles. The third hit a commercial complex close to the Azrieli Center, partially collapsing a structure and starting a fire that burned for hours. From Lebanon, Hezbollah leader Hassan Nasrallah delivered a defiant televised address, calling the strike a turning point in the regional balance of power. While stopping short of announcing his group's entry into the conflict, he warned that any Israeli attack on Iran will be met with a regional response. Hamas, operating in Gaza and closely aligned with Iran, declared full solidarity with Tehran and praised the strike as a justified response to Zionist crimes. Rocket fire from Gaza toward southern Israel was reported within 24 hours, though on a limited scale. Elsewhere, Turkey urged de-escalation, but condemned the targeting of civilians. Egypt called for an emergency meeting of the Arab League, stressing the risk of uncontrolled regional war. Jordan, caught between historic peace treaties and rising internal tension, expressed alarm and reinforced security along its borders. In Iraq, powerful Iranian-backed militias celebrated the strike on social media, with some suggesting this is only the beginning. In Yemen, Houthi leaders praised Iran's action and declared readiness to act in the axis of resistance if the conflict expands. Across the region, one reality became clear. The strike had shattered the illusion of stability. The fault lines were visible and active. As news of the Iranian missile strike on Tel Aviv broke, world capitals responded with urgency. The United States, Israel's closest ally, was among the first to react. President Joe Biden condemned the attack as a reckless and direct act of aggression by Iran. In a press briefing, the White House announced the immediate deployment of additional naval assets to the eastern Mediterranean and signaled its unwavering support for Israel's right to defend itself. Simultaneously, the European Union issued a joint statement calling for immediate de-escalation and warning that the region was on the brink of a war that would have global repercussions. France, Germany, and the UK condemned the Iranian strike while urging Israel to act proportionately in its response. European foreign ministers held emergency consultations to coordinate a diplomatic path forward, but divisions quickly emerged over how forcefully to confront Tehran. At the United Nations, the Secretary-General called for an emergency Security Council session, describing the situation as the most dangerous escalation in the Middle East in decades. The session was marked by fiery exchanges. While Western nations condemned Iran, Russia, and China, urged restraint on both sides, and criticized what they called Western double standards. Russia, seeking to balance ties with both Tehran and Tel Aviv, warned against a broader conflict and blamed external interference for fueling tensions in the region. A veiled reference to NATO and U.S. presence in the Gulf. China, meanwhile, called for a ceasefire and proposed hosting a regional peace summit, though its proposal received little immediate traction. Global media responded with wall-to-wall coverage. Major Western outlets led with headlines like Middle East on the edge and Tel Aviv under fire, while others focused on Iran's bold new strategy. State-run media in Iran, Russia, and some parts of the Arab world portrayed the strike as a legitimate act of deterrence against Israeli and Western aggression. Markets reacted instantly. Oil prices surged, airline stocks plummeted, and investors rushed to safe havens. Diplomats warned that what happened in Tel Aviv could ripple far beyond the Middle East, threatening global energy security, trade routes, and alliances. What was once unthinkable, a direct Iranian strike on Israeli soil, had now become the new global crisis. The Iranian missile strike on Tel Aviv is not just a new chapter in the Iran-Israel conflict, it's a global turning point with cascading implications far beyond the region. First and foremost, the risk of a full-scale regional war has dramatically escalated, with Israel preparing military retaliation and Iran declaring readiness for any counterstrikes. The possibility of multi-front conflict is now real. Pro-Iranian militias in Lebanon, Syria, Iraq, and Yemen are on alert, and intelligence reports suggest contingency plans for coordinated regional actions against Israeli or Western targets. In Lebanon, Hezbollah is closely watching Israel's next move. Should Israel retaliate against Iranian territory, Hezbollah could launch a massive rocket barrage on northern Israel, something analysts have warned could overwhelm the Iron Dome and devastate civilian areas. In Syria, Iranian Revolutionary Guard units stationed near the Golan Heights may attempt to open another front. In Iraq, militias such as Kataib Hezbollah have signaled that an Israeli retaliation could trigger direct attacks on U.S. bases in the region. Such a conflict would endanger U.S. and NATO forces across the Middle East. American bases in Qatar, Bahrain, Kuwait, and the UAE have raised alert levels to DEFCON 2. Aircraft carriers in the Persian Gulf have been repositioned, and the Pentagon has activated rapid deployment units in Europe and CENTCOM regions. NATO, though not directly engaged, has warned that its member states' forces in the region could come under threat. The economic fallout is already being felt. Global oil prices have surged past $110 a barrel as traders fear potential disruptions in the Strait of Hormuz, through which nearly 20% of the world's oil supply passes. Iran has hinted that, in the event of an Israeli attack, it could block or heavily militarize this critical shipping route, sending tremors through global markets. Maritime shipping firms are rerouting vessels, and insurance premiums for tankers in the Gulf have skyrocketed. Meanwhile, Iran's bold move has signaled to its regional allies and adversaries alike that it is no longer content with proxy warfare. Tehran has demonstrated not only military capability, but political will. The Islamic Republic is asserting itself as a central power in the future of the Middle East, willing to take direct action against what it deems existential threats. This also shifts the strategic calculus for Saudi Arabia and the Gulf monarchies, who now find themselves walking a tightrope between deterring Iranian aggression and avoiding entanglement in a major war. Turkey and Egypt, regional powers with their own ambitions, must now reassess their roles in a potentially collapsing regional order. Simply put, the old framework of deterrence and indirect confrontation has been shattered. The balance of power is in flux, and what emerges next may reshape not just the Middle East, but the world's security architecture itself. Beyond the headlines, beyond the missiles and declarations, lie the lives of millions of ordinary people, caught in the shadows of decisions they did not make, in wars they cannot control. In Tel Aviv, parents shielded their children as buildings shook. In Tehran, some celebrated, others feared what retaliation might bring. Across Beirut, Gaza, Baghdad, and Haifa, families rushed to stock food, secure shelters, and call loved ones, not knowing what tomorrow might hold. A young Israeli nurse described carrying injured victims from a collapsed cafe. They were just eating lunch. One moment they were laughing. The next we were pulling bodies from under fire. In Iran, a student posted, "We don't want war, we want dignity. But this strike, will it bring us pride or more funerals?" The tragedy is not just in the destruction, but in its predictability. Many warned this moment was coming. Historians will recall the 1967 Six-Day War or the 2006 Lebanon War, sudden escalations rooted in years of tension and missed diplomatic chances. But this time, the weapons are more precise, the alliances more volatile, and the stakes far higher. And yet, through it all, the fundamental questions persist. Was this inevitable? Could it have been prevented? Years of proxy conflict normalized violence. The collapse of the Iran nuclear deal, the failure of serious negotiations, the silence after civilian deaths in Syria, Gaza, or Iran, all were bricks in the road to today. But war is not fate. It is the product of human choices, accumulated, ignored, and finally exploding. In the rush to frame enemies and claim justice, what gets lost is the universal cost of war. Lives broken, futures erased, and generations traumatized. In these moments, we are reminded that peace is not weakness, restraint is not surrender, and true strength may lie not in the reach of one's missiles, but in the ability to listen, to pause, and to imagine a different ending. This strike may mark a turning point, but what direction we turn in is still ours to choose. Amid the thunder of missiles and the roar of political rhetoric, the real story is found in the lives shattered by conflict. Ordinary people who bear the weight of decisions far beyond their control. In Tel Aviv, families scrambled for shelter as alarms blared, children clung to parents, and neighbors comforted the injured. A young mother described the chaos. One moment we were having breakfast, the next we were running for cover. I keep wondering if I'll see my children safe tomorrow. Meanwhile, in Tehran, voices were mixed. Some praised the strike as a symbol of resistance. Others worried about the costs of escalating violence on their own families and future generations. Throughout the region, civilians caught in the crossfire share a common suffering. From the bombed-out neighborhoods in Gaza to the embattled suburbs of Beirut, everyday people grapple with fear, loss, and uncertainty. The pain is a stark reminder that beyond geopolitics, war is a human tragedy. History offers somber parallels. The rapid, devastating changes of the 1967 Six-Day War and the drawn-out devastation of the 2006 Lebanon War echo today's reality, conflicts born from unresolved tensions and cycles of retaliation. Each time, ordinary citizens paid the heaviest price, and peace remained elusive. Could this have been prevented? Many argue that years of diplomatic failure, mutual distrust, and escalating proxy wars paved the way for this direct confrontation. The collapse of negotiations over Iran's nuclear program, ongoing military incursions, and hardline postures hardened both sides. Yet war is not fate, it is a choice. Each missile fired reflects a moment when dialogue was abandoned in favor of violence. The real question now is whether the region's leaders and peoples will seek a path beyond retaliation or be condemned to repeat history's darkest chapters. This conflict challenges us all to reflect on the true cost of war and the fragile hope for peace, reminding us that behind every headline are human lives, longing for safety, dignity, and a future free from fear. If you found this video insightful, please like and share it with others who want to understand these critical events. Don't forget to subscribe and join the conversation. Your thoughts and questions matter. Together, we can explore the deeper stories shaping our world.